Hey everyone, thanks for joining us at the Lair. Today I'm Vic.
I'm Sam, and today on PSN Trophy Talk, we are talking about The Last of Us.
The Last of Us. Yes. We're gonna be going down the trophies. We're not gonna, name them one by one, but just in case, we're gonna throw a spoiler warning out there. I don't think we're gonna talk anything spoilerish, but just in case, you have been warned. And we're just gonna be playing a few online matches so that you guys have something to watch while you listen.
Yep.
And basically, go ahead, Sam. Sorry.
No, I say yep. That's it. Go ahead, keep on.
And basically, we're going to start with the single player. We're going to give you single player, multiplayer, then some DLC. Single player trophies, fairly straightforward. Last of Us is a very, very fun, beautiful, amazing game. At least I
Indeed,
thought so.
yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is.
And single player trophies, very straightforward. Let's start with the difficulty. You have to start, you can start on normal or easy. I believe Survivor is not unlocked from the beginning. You have to beat the game once in order to play Survivor difficulty. But you can start on whatever difficulty you really like. I suggest you pick normal and just have fun with the game, enjoy it, and
And
then worry about the rest later.
yeah, I'm guessing normal would get you a little more ready for the harder difficulties than easy would.
Right. So there are a ton of collectibles in The Last of Us. There are newspapers, there are guides, there are pendants. I won't specify, but there are pendants that you need to pick up. Comics. There are optional conversations and a bunch of things. And all very easy to get if you are looking at a guide. Personally, I followed the guide on ps3trophies.org, I believe is the site, right?
Yeah, that should be it. I'm pretty sure they have a guide for the PS3 and the PS4 version, so either or is fine.
Right. So I used that guide after I had played my original playthrough, in which I tried to find everything on my own and failed miserably.
Are the things really hard to find? Like, are they, like it's not like common in eyesight. Like the guy do really help?
Some are, but some of them I feel, at least for me, are you'd never find them, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're into, I suggest using the guide, but only after you beat the game. Don't. I feel like it takes away from the immersion of the game if you're just using the guide from the start. But everybody's different. Maybe you'd like to do that, but whatever. And that's really it as far as the single player trophies are. It's collectibles and beating the game. Then you have to beat the game if you're going for the platinum. You have to beat the game on Survivor difficulty, and also on Survivor Plus. What Survivor Plus is, it's basically a new game plus. After you beat the game, you're able to do a
Oh
new game
crap!
plus, carry over your stats, and so on and so forth. But I would definitely suggest, like I said, playing on a regular difficulty, then going from Survivor from there. Normally, you would have to beat Survivor in order to play Survivor Plus. So basically, you need to play the game 3 times. But fortunately for you people who don't want to play the game that many times, there's a workaround, and I'll touch on the workaround, might as well. After you beat the game, you'll unlock Survivor difficulty. If I'm not mistaken, you have to load up from chapter select, the very first chapter. Play until you have to load up the prologue. Play until the first chapter, quit, and then
Oh come on!
start start again. You hit continue, and from there you should now be on a new game plus run. Um, and that way you don't have to play the game again. Uh, but that's it, and then you go through Survivor difficulty, and after you do that, you have all the single player trophies after you get all the collectibles as well.
Before we head
Um,
before we head into multiplayer stuff, do you want to tell the people how survival is? Is it like a super hard difficulty, easy, hard? Like,
It's pretty difficult. It's a lot more difficult than normal. Think that's all that needs to be said. Hard difficulty, it's usually that. Very hard.
alright.
But and also I did forget, you get to level up your character. Again, I don't want to get too much into specifics about it, but you get to level up your character, and you have to max out your character. That's a trophy, and you have to max out your guns. You'll get multiple weapons throughout the game. You got to max them all out. You will not be able to max them all out in one playthrough. Two maybe, but definitely not one. And that, I'm sure now, it should be all the single player trophies anyway. Multiplayer. We're gonna move on to multiplayer.
Man.
Multiplayer. They didn't make it that difficult. All you have to do is survive in the multiplayer. They're called weeks. You have to survive 12 weeks with each faction. There are 2 factions in the game. After you beat one faction, you'll be able to just switch over to the other. Problem with this is you get a clan. It's not like, your regular, oh, I'm joining a clan. That's just what it's called. And you have survivors, and you have to keep your people alive. And in order to keep them alive, you have to do well in the games, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What you can do, what many people have done, what I'm currently doing myself, is you can actually skip days by simply quitting the game. Quitting the match, not the entire game. So you start the match, you quit the game, you quit the match, it skips you to the next day. Problem with that is that you lose survivors, and if you reach 0, you have to start over. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to how many survivors are left in your game, in your clan, if you're going to continue to use that method. But then you get challenges along the way.
Dang it.
Which will kill your population, so pay attention to those also. You what is it called? The challenge is, if you lose a challenge, you lose 100% of your population.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge you really have to pay attention to. But definitely not difficult, but if you're not paying attention, you'll avoid it, you'll die, you'll start over, and that whole thing is frustrating.
Yeah, and they'll be slick sometimes, and they'll try to pull the 100 population thing more than one time in a row, especially when you're close to the end.
Yes.
Because they know you're going for that trophy.
After you do that, that's basically, we covered all the trophies. There's your plat. After you do the single player, you do that stuff in the multiplayer. There's your plat. Overall, not a difficult plat at all. But I will say that survivor difficulty is annoying. It's definitely annoying. You die faster. They take much more damage, but it's still doable.
Yeah. Before we head to the DLC stuff, for multiplayer, about the challenges, do you recommend any? Because since you said the challenges, you gotta do certain tasks. Do you recommend certain tasks for those challenges to make it much easier?
I would suggest you do what you're most comfortable with. If you're better at downing people, you're better with a certain weapon. They have a bunch of different challenges. But what seems to be the easiest of all of them is the healing challenge. You basically have to heal your teammates a certain amount of health percentages and stuff like that. But the number goes up so quickly that you'll be done with that challenge really fast.
Yeah.
That seems to be the easiest one. But again, do what you're comfortable with. If you feel like you're good with a machine gun, they have a challenge for a machine gun. If you feel that you're good with a shotgun, they have a challenge for a shotgun. But the healing one definitely seems to be the easiest of all the challenges.
We getting our butt kicked.
Yes, we are. Then so we got that covered. That should be your platinum. Now, if you're trying to go for the DLC trophies, the downloadable content,
Ah,
they have a single player DLC called Left Behind, and they have multiplayer DLC, which is basically just maps. You get more maps, but in order to get specific trophies, you have to play on these specific maps and so on and so forth. But we'll cover the DLC single player first, which can't really get too into because it's a big story portion,
yep, spoilers.
and we don't want to spoil exactly. Don't want to spoil anything for that portion of the game, but it's good. Also has collectibles, just like the regular single player. Has collectibles. This one though has chapter-specific trophies, which, if I tell you what they are, it'll give away a bit of the game, so I won't say. But they're not overly difficult. They're not challenging at all. If you know what you're doing, you should be fine. And there's also beat the game on hard, survivor difficulty, which is again the hardest difficulty, and yeah, so that's that. Collectibles, chapter specific stuff, and beating the game on the hardest difficulty. Then you have the multiplayer trophy, which I was saying a second ago, is maps. They're all different maps, and all these maps are just, specifically for multiplayer, obviously, and you just have to do specific tasks in them. Mostly all of them are get 5 downs in said level. So, to give you some examples of the DLC levels, there's bookstore, there's bus depot, hometown, suburbs, and in all of those you have to get 5 downs. The game seems to count executions as downs. So use that to your advantage. And if you only have 2 downs, but you see an opportunity to get 3 executions, get them. And it'll equal 5, and you'll be able to get the trophy. Then you have to play certain modes on certain levels. Again, everything relatively simple as long as you're getting these levels and being able to play these levels, because it's a vote, and some people may not pick the level you need, but eventually you'll get it.
Yeah, it just takes a good long while. Cause I remember we were waiting for, what was it, hometown, right?
Hometown was the last level that we needed, yes.
And it took like forever for it to show up. And then when it did show up,
Right.
people didn't want to pick it for some reason.
Right, right. And the very last of the DLC trophies, they added something called grounded mode. That was a extra difficulty. It's harder than survivor mode. It is not, again, it's DLC, so it is not a requirement for the platinum if that's all you're trying to get is the platinum. But if you're trying to get grounded mode done, prepare for a bit of frustration. Because it is frustrating. It is very, very frustrating, that mode. And it's far more difficult than Survivor in the sense that you get less ammunition, you die very quickly, your enemies can hear you almost immediately. You take a step and they hear you. And this game is very stealthy, so once you play it, you know what I mean. But they'll hear you, excuse me, almost immediately. And then there's this other thing, and I don't know if this is spoilerish or not, but it's not a big deal. You have this sort of hearing mode where normally you hold the R1 button and your character will be able to almost see through walls, but he's really listening for them. And you'll be able to see where certain enemies are. On grounded mode, that ability is taken off. So you're basically going in blindly unless you happen to know where the enemies are going to spawn and so on and so forth. Checkpoints are limited as well. You will you will get a checkpoint every enemy encounter. But let's just say there are 3 enemy encounters back to back to back. If you die on the third encounter, you'll have to start back at the first encounter.
Well, that sucks.
And that is extremely, extremely frustrating. Especially when you just went through this whole part where you're stealthing and you're trying not to die, and you do it and you make it,
Yeah.
but then you get to the third one and you die, and you just want to slam the controller on the floor.
I could imagine.
But again, it's very doable, but prepare for some frustration. And that's all the trophies.
Oh shit.
I saw that bomb, and there was no getting away from that.
Oh, come on. I was half dead anyway.
It's just frustrating. It's very frustrating. But those are all your trophies. That's all the single player, all the multiplayer, all the DLC. I would like to give a hint for the game. On grounded mode, there's a way for you to get unlimited shivs. You'll know what the shivs are. Basically knives that help you basically one hit kill enemies, and you can get unlimited shivs. And the way you do this is you'll get the materials for a shiv, and you'll have them equipped. Now you need to find a melee weapon, and you need to keep it with you until you find a second melee weapon. Once you find the second melee weapon, you have to take your materials in order to craft a stronger melee weapon, drop it, pick up the regular one, then re-pick up the one that's upgraded, and you'll get all your materials back in order to get the shiv. Obviously it's a glitch, but it is phenomenal.
Yeah, take advantage
so much.
that glitch can be the difference between this was a little easier to frustration, pull your hair out.
Yes, very much. But yeah, that's everything overall. This game is amazing. Sam, is this game amazing or not?
Yeah, I loved it. It was a real good story and everything from beginning to ending. Look forward to part 2 whenever that comes out. But yeah, I love the game, and it's not one of those big games that end up being disappointments. It actually is worth your time.
Right, definitely. And even if you're not playing, even if you're not trying to get the trophies, and this is what trophy talk we're doing here, so you're at the wrong place. But no, play the game. Play the game with or without trophies. Who cares?
What the heck?
This game is simply amazing. But that's really it, Sam. Unless you have any thoughts, anything else you wanted to add. I think we covered just about everything.
Yeah, not really. The most I can say is that if you're doing the multiplayer stuff, if you got a friend to play, and ask them to play with you, because after a while it could get kind of boring just doing it by yourself.
Oh yeah, this game is. I mean, I think all multiplayers are far more fun with someone, right?
Yeah.
But this one is.
Yeah,
after one or two.
What the heck?
You stop to care.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into a lobby with people who are just far better than you.
Yeah. At least. Go ahead.
No, we've been playing this game for how long, and we just kind of get our butts kicked because we're not that good.
Yeah, I'm sorry we couldn't give a great showing here in multiplayer. No, there are times where we have really good matches. Like it was a few things
one of them.
Yeah, it was like a day or two ago. We had like a run of real good matches. Like we actually stood our ground. But these past two matches you've been seeing us play, we are getting our butts really, really, really kicked.
We are. Luckily, they're seeing your side of it because
Yeah.
I'm just as bad right now.
Yeah.
But
Aha, got you.
yeah, that's it. I think, right?
Yeah. I'll say one thing. At least for the multiplayer, it's not no dumb rank thing. It's just you playing it. At least that's like
Oh
one big
yeah,
positive.
they could have made this so much more difficult. You
Yeah.
know, max out a level or something. And we've seen plenty of 999 leveled people where this would have taken forever if you had to do it that way.
Yeah. I'm just happy they didn't have that.
Right. But game is fun, game is great.
Oh man.
Recommend it to everyone. Always play this game. And
Yeah, he fell for
that's
it.
everything. That's everything. I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're planning to do many more games in the future. Watch our previous video. We did
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat X, and yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
I've said that how many times?
Yeah.
But thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us, joining the lair. We look forward to doing more games in the future, and hopefully you'll come by and watch us and listen to us.
Yes, I
I'm
hope so.
Vic.
And I'm Sam. And keep reaching for those platinums.
Yes.